Teresa Kanan with Stitchin Tree Quilts, and welcome to our Marty and Me Club. This month we'll be exploring Marty's pattern, Scrappy Bear's Path, and more. To make this fun little wall hanging that we pieced together featuring fabric called Pine Fresh by Sandy Gervais for Moda. The pattern calls for us to use Marty's template set Drunkard's Path, and we'll also use a block out of our set B, which you already have. In addition to demonstrating how to make the blocks using Marty's template set, I'll also be showing you an easier way to make a Drunkard's Path or any curved block using the Curve Master curved foot. Won't you join us as we explore Marty's pattern and template set? This month we'll be using Marty's Scrappy Bear's Path pattern together with her perfect patchwork template, Drunkard's Path. She'll also have us using one of the blocks from our set B. In the pattern she'll ask you if you have set A, there's a block you can use, but if you don't have that, you'll be able to use just any square up ruler so that you can measure your fussy cut block for the center of the quilt. I used Marty's 6.5 inch square up ruler, which worked really well because at the bottom edge of the ruler there's a nice straight line here that worked really well with cutting our squares. Let's take a look at Marty's pattern. As with all of Marty's patterns, on the inside cover you'll see some different layouts for the actual block. And then on page 3, in the black and white area, again Marty explains how she came up with her block, and Marty describes her first wall hanging, which was the Scrappy Bear's Path. On pages 4 and 5, Marty talks about the template set itself, and at the beginning she tells you about the pie shape of a Drunkard's Path as well as the L shape, and explains why in her template set both pieces end up being a pie shape piece, because the pie shape is easy to cut with your rotary ruler, whereas the L shape is very difficult to cut with a rotary ruler. She shows you how to make the L shape using squares and a pie-shaped unit, and then how to put the Drunkard's Path piece together. On pages 6 and 7, Marty describes how to pin and how to stitch your Drunkard's Path blocks, but when you see our demonstration using the Curve Master curved foot, you're probably going to find that both of Marty's methods are a little time consuming compared to what you can do by having a curved foot for your machine. Pages 8 and 9 begin their instructions for making the Scrappy Bear's Paw. There's a couple of notes to make with Marty's pattern, but not very many. First of all, the finished size is 27 inches, not 26.5. And then, for the cutting instructions, just so that you have an idea of what we use to cut for our kits, for the 6.5 inch squares we just use one 7-inch strip of fabric. For the quarter circles we use a 6-inch by 22-inch piece. For the sashing strips you need to cut 4 sashing strips, but you can get those out of one 4-inch strip of fabric. And for the triangles for the claws and background, you will need 2 strips that are 2.5 inches wide for each of those. Further on, Marty describes the border, and in the first border she says to have a fat quarter. We actually supplied a 4-inch strip, and from that you'll cut 2 1 3/4 inch pieces, and in the final border you'll need to cut 4 3-inch strips. The rest of the pattern is pretty self-explanatory. You'll notice on the top of page 9, though, that Marty refers to the pieces of the Drunkard's Path as a pie shape or an L shape. The pie being the part with the convex circle, and the L being the part with the concave circle. Inside Marty's pattern is the template that you could use if you do not want to purchase the template set. It is difficult to rotary cut around the template, but it is possible. On page 10, under finishing the one block wall hanging, your border strips, the first border strip will need to be cut to 19.5 inches. On the second instruction, you'll need 4 strips that are 3 inches wide. You'll cut 2 of those strips at 22 inches and 2 of those strips at 27 inches. The rest of the pattern includes different layouts. Here's a crib or small throw on page 11 and a bed quilt that begins on page 13. The rest of the pattern from page 17 on talks about using directional fabrics or folding fabrics to cut different shapes with your Drunkard's Path unit. There's a lot of really good information inside, things to consider, including fussy cutting that's on page 20. On page 21, or on page 24 and 25, Marti has left-hand cutting instructions. And then on page 26, she includes the Asian roundabout quilt, which is a very different looking quilt from the Drunkard's Path. There's a lot packed into this little pattern. On the back of the pattern is a picture of the Asian roundabout quilt. This month we'll be using Marti's Drunkard Path templates. The path includes 2 pieces. Piece E, which is the to cut the L shape, and piece F, which is to cut the pie-shaped part of Marti's pattern. We'll begin by squaring up one edge of our Drunkard's Path background fabric. Once we've done that, we need to cut 4 6.5-inch blocks. We'll use the 6.5-inch square-up ruler to determine our block width. Make our cut, and then we're ready to cut the 6.5-inch squares. We'll square up one side, removing the selvages from our background fabric, and then we'll use the 6.5-inch square-up ruler to make 2 cuts, giving us 4 6.5-inch square blocks. We'll be using template E to make our cut. Place the template in the lower left-hand corner of the squares, and using your rotary cutter, carefully cut around the template. We'll discard these pieces because we will not be needing those. To make your pie-shaped pieces, you'll start with a 5.5-inch strip of whichever fabric you choose for your pie-shaped piece. You'll square up the edges, and then using your rotary cutter and ruler, you'll carefully cut your pie-shaped pieces. You'll need 4 pie-shaped pieces to complete the block. On pages 6 and 7, Marti describes a method, both whether hand piecing or machine piecing, for putting both the pie and the L-shaped pieces together. But I'm going to show you a quicker method using a curved foot that will allow you to piece these two sections together without using any pins. The Curved Master presser foot is designed by an engineer from Florida. He designed it for his wife. It retails for $29.99 and it comes with a variety of feet that will work with any particular machine. For my Bernina, I attached the Curved Master foot directly to my regular presser foot. The presser foot kit comes with a plastic shank, but I prefer to use the shank that came with my Bernina machine. You'll start by taking your L-shaped piece of fabric and place it on the bottom. Take your pie-shaped piece, place it on the top, matching the point in the corner. You can see that the two pieces do not lay together well at all. But don't worry, they'll come together as they work their way through the machine. There's a 1/4 inch guide on your presser foot. Go ahead and take a couple of stitches holding your threads to set that beginning. Once you've done that, you'll lift your top piece and hold it so that it can feed evenly, the edges of the fabric can feed evenly as the bottom part goes through the machine. You'll note that I'm not using any pins and I'm not stretching the fabric, I'm just holding it up and using an even stitch length, going nice and slow. When you get about 3/4 of an inch away from the end, you'll want to make sure that your two corner pieces meet together at the end and voila, my piece is finished without any pins and I piece it together fairly quickly. All I need to do is press. Once you've completed your 4 units, you'll want to press those, turn those over, and you'll press them towards the pie-shaped piece. And it'll press nice and flat.